morning, everyone. Um, you had to apologize me. Um, the slides were supposed to be for bigger resolution, so at some parts there were some videos, and it's going to be on top of some text, but I'll try to do my best. Um, okay. So initially, the talk was supposed to be called like this, but it's actually any talk could be called like this. It's too abstract, so it doesn't really tell anything too much. But I guess it kind of worked by the time they asked me to say something. But by the time I was developing the presentation, it was becoming to be a little bit of my background on how or the things that I wanted to do from now on with, especially with the demo scene. So it's a little bit of my point of view at this point of how the demo scene, which I guess you guys know about, how can it make sense at this point. But first of all, just as a bit of background, I think this was like 15 years ago already. It was when I was starting to play with computers and see what you could do with that. My brother kind of introduced me to the demo scene. He was downloading those things, and they were in real time and everything, and it was super cool. So I got interested in that because it was the only thing I could see. The only option I had for actually selecting the kind of content I wanted to see, apart from TV. TV, they put whatever you cannot choose what you want to see, but at least with computer, I was able to download those things and watch them if I wanted again and everything. So I started just watching demos for about 3 years, only that. And at that time, with that kind of modem, actually I think we had a much slower modem than not a fixed 56 one. We had a thing 38 or something like this. So it actually took like 30 minutes to download. In this case, tribes. So it was, it will take quite a bit to download, but it will be a really nice show. Like at least in this one, like maybe this one looks a little bit outdated now, but it was really by the time, by the Christmas I downloaded it, it was like the best Christmas ever. Actually, it's on the same party. I think that was the best party from my memories. In this case, a 64K will take like 10 seconds to download, about 10 seconds to download. And again, it was amazing what you could see those at that time. And in contrast, behind that image, it says that a video will take 7 hours to download, which will be like 200 megabytes. It will take about 7 hours, which I cannot put an example because I never download any. Because it will take, you had to pay for the internet for the night. So my parents won't let me, download that kind of things. And in the case I download one, maybe it won't be too good. So it was a risk to download those things. So in the end, it was downloading demos and watching demos. It was cheaper than not like downloading videos. And maybe there were a worse show comparing to a video but I just don't know. So after being watching quite a lot of demos, that was about 14 or 16 years old. So you usually don't do much in those years. You just watch stuff and you don't do much. But at one point, I really felt that I wanted to do those things. So my brother kind of tried to show me how to code and a little bit of C and everything, but my mind wasn't really ready at that point, so I really didn't understood anything. So I just went to graphics because it was easier. It was just using Photoshop, and it was much easier to do. So I could do something that it will look nice, and I will put it somewhere. And, that was cool. But then in relation to the demo scene, in this case, my brother will ask me to do some graphics for a specific part. Like he will have this effect, and I will do this graphic or this title with Photoshop, in instance. But it will be to disconnect in anything. Maybe it will make sense for his head or for what he wanted to do. But for me, it was like just doing a graphic that didn't really fit too much on my vision, let's say. At that point, I started doing some graphics for other guys. It was not only with my brother anymore. It was also with other coders. But at that time, still, it was like 15 years ago, 14 years ago. The Amiga guys were still alive, and they kind of say that Photoshop was wrong, and you had to pixelate everything. So okay, I gave it a try to see how it worked. At least I will say I will see all those, how it worked, all those things, and all the anti-aliasing and everything. And it was really a lot of work to do just one image. It was nice to try, but it was too much work. So then I went back to graphics, but in this case, it was not just a specific graphic for things. It was more like a design for how, in a part of a demo, how this screen will look, or how this effect will be in the middle, and the design will be around, and to try to find some coherence for the coder. But they didn't. Usually, I was doing many designs. In fact, I get to a point that I had to do. I even had to do a video version with Premiere of the demo to show it to my brother or some other coder to say, okay, do you want to do this demo? And they will say no. So you kept because you won't be able to do much. You kept like trying to pitching to a coder like, okay, let's do this demo with this idea. So as an instance, this wasn't a video, but as an instance, I wrote those things. It's in Spanish, but you get an idea. Like you had the duration and the scene and the text of the music, more or less, and it kind of explains like from this time to this time, we will have this, and it will say this text, and it will say the music will be like that, and blah blah blah. So it was kind of defining something that it will have some coherence in a way, but at least in this one, the coder liked this one, and we ended up doing it. So it was cool, but still, it had to be a very important, a viable demo, because many people at that time, or many other people on the demo scene that I knew, they always wanted to, they had ideas for let's do this demo, but it was always asking to the coder to do environment mapping and this and that, and the coder would say, actually, I don't have that, but in the end, they wouldn't do anything because probably the coder will spend like 2 months doing the environment mapping, and by that time, the guy that was doing the graphics, he was studying or something else. So it was always really important to actually know what the coder will have. Like if the coder had a cube rotating, okay, we had a cube rotating, and we have this flash shading, okay, let's try to do something just with that and not spend time on coding more stuff, but actually developing the whole thing. Which, in the end, writing those things, it kind of was directing, but I really never used that as a name. But now that I think about it, it really looks like it was directing the whole show in a way. So after this, we started doing some demos, and I was kind of directing some of the things and kind of saying this is going to happen this, and this is going to happen that, and all this. So we did a couple of demos and some intros and all this. So it was cool, but at some point, after those many demos, I was starting to realize that the coder you always had to be, like the coder obviously was always in the middle. You will say, okay, let's have this, and you will define it, and the coder will say, okay, so he will hard code everything in the code with ifs and everything, and with the time is there. If the time is there, just put this and blah blah blah. So you wanted to have like an extra flash. You had to go to the coder and say, okay, can we have an extra flash at this point? And at some point the coder would say, I have to sleep, or I don't really feel like doing it. So then it it came the scripting system, which it will be like a coder will define a scripting, so he won't have to deal with me. So he will just he will just create a script that I called or set up a script system that I could write myself. Which this is just an example, which it kind of defines which scenes we're going to have and with the effects that we are going to have. And at this point, it starts to say, okay, at this sync time 00, we're going to have this effect, which is going to be the fade in, and it's going to have from this color and all these kind of definitions. But it was actually, it was nice because I was able to modify everything at any point, and it was just a matter of modifying the text and then playing the demo again. And it was even cool because you were able to jump the specific position of the demo, so you didn't have to watch the whole demo just to see a flash on the end of the demo. So that was nice. It was kind of a relief in a way, but it was a lot of work to to write all these, and luckily, the same coder. Well, in this case, it was a lot of work, but luckily, the coder even saw that himself and say, actually, maybe it's going to be better if you didn't have to write those scripts, but I'll write a demo editor for you so you can, it's just much visual stuff. It's just much nicer. And actually, this is the second demo editor that we had. We had one, it was much simple, but this is another coder from US came in, and he, very talented coder, actually, Black Pound. And he did this one, which is pretty amazing, actually. I don't know, you can see, yeah. So here you will see, this is actually the demo, as you will see it in the end. I don't know, we can see, yeah. So this is like a preview of the demo. It had some information, like just to know if it's too many polygons and everything. And this is just like, it's very similar to Premiere. So you will have, this is the top layer is the one that is always on the background, and you will start to add stuff on the top, which in this case will this is seen with the ribbons or tubes actually, and you will define parameters at some point, like on those. And it was even cooler in this version of the tool because you will, if you select this effect, in instance, you had all those parameters on the side that you were able to modify, and with those parameters, like in this case, maybe the grow or the tubes, you were able to apply a curve to each effect, which it looks like this. So you will select one of those, you will apply, apply a curve to the scaling instance, and you were able to apply play with the curve, how it will affect to the whole parameter, which it was, I think it was quite incredible because it was super fast. You were able to make changes really quickly and move stuff, like do synchronizations really quickly. So it was with that, after 10 demos, in this case we had like 42 demos, which is quite a lot. Some of them were kind of joke demos, but it was good to be able to do those too, because you had the idea, and it doesn't take too much time, but it was good to be able to experiment with those things too. So it was a really interesting process because you were able to do like a demo in like one day and really with a lot of details, like all with the synchronization points and everything. But in this case, the editor became a little bit of a problem because you were able to do only what the editor will let you. So you had to speak with the coder and say, okay, what about you want to have this, and what about if we want to, we have this tube, and what about if we want to modify it, like twist it? Then he will have to do the code, and it's nice, but in a way everything was a little bit too static because I was able to have the 3D scenes designing in 3D Max. I will export it, and I was able to modify the camera, but in the end, it's, comparing to a normal demo, let's say, it was just a camera moving. It was what they will call like a camera traveling thing, or just a demo that is only the camera moving and something on the middle, and that's it. Which it's nice for 42 demos, but it gets to a point that you want to do a little bit more like dynamic in a way. Then I realized that was the problem, because it wasn't really the coder's fault at all, or the editor or anything. It was just, in fact, it was more a problem because the coder will be able to do, if he had the whole idea, the coder will be able to do everything by himself. But because he wanted to work with me, he will have to do the editor in a way that it also works for me, and he will have to do specific things so it works in my mind instead of only on his. But also, if I was able to code, I will be able to apply those things, those ideas, without having to speak with the coder. So it got to a point that I just decided, okay, I just left all this design work and tried to see how what I was able to do with code. Which actually I was really interested, because it's kind of easy to code in a way. It's like really helpful, because for a designer you have to design something. It will take you a lot of time to do one design that it works, and with code you can just write 4 lines and it will generate some things. So, okay, I like this one. So it's just it's much easier to do that way than not having to design the whole thing and then modify something. On the commercial side, I guess, my commercial I was working as a web developer, so I was kind of doing HTML, PHP, starting to doing ActionScript. So I kind of was doing code, but without really realizing. So it wasn't too much. It was not really too much work to actually try to do all those effects by myself. But because I was a web developer, I was really interested in ubiquity. So I won't see the point of doing something in C that only works on Windows, or only works on Mac, or spending all that time trying to compile it so it works for everything. So I was always stuck to someone that it works in most of the platforms, which will be Java, or in this case, Flash. So I started porting just old school effects, which in this case, we just have a plasma, which I really, actually, I understood this one. It's kind of easy, just having 2 signers and for the X and one for the Y, and then applied everything together. So it was kind of easy to understand. This one I didn't really understand what I was doing. I was just copying the code and porting the code, and it was in the end it was a nice result, but I didn't understand what this math tangent or anything. I didn't understand any of that. And the same with this one, which is a little bit kind of missing the point with all the distortion, but I didn't really understand how it was rotating. But I was just porting the code and to see what it will get from there. Which it was fun. All these, for some reason, I decided to start putting all those experiments on a website. And after those, because it wasn't a website, it was weird that you were not able to use the mouse to place with them, because if you're working doing websites, about interactivity, so that feels really, really weird if you cannot control the effects, and it's working on real time, so why not? So I started to do this as an example. This was just at the time that 3D library for Flash came, because I had all this background of doing design on 3D and all those things. I kind of knew how to use the library, or how to create assets for the library. So I started to create these kind of things. It's nothing, but it was kind of as a toy, like different toys on my website. Then this was another one, which it kind of shows why the interaction was really interesting, because if this was just the camera was automatic, you will see something, but it's nice if you can control the camera and see all the things that you can, all the things that happen and be able to control those things. And again, this was quite fun to do too. Yet another example, just playing with usual tricks from the demo scene. Like in this case, it's just having, instead of blurring that image, you have all that image in different levels already blurred, so you change it depending on how close to the camera is. So I was just testing those things. Like I will see, like, oh, I think they are doing something like that. Okay, let's try it. And I will do this thing. And again, you can control the camera, but in this case, it's a little bit more static in a way. You cannot really control much of the whole thing. This is another example. I think it was nice from the bottom, yeah. Oh, I cannot quit. Yeah. And then it was when this, I don't know if you guys have seen this music video for Radiohead that it was done with 3D scanners, I think. Yeah. So they will get the camera from this. I actually don't remember the name of the guy. So they will have the music video was only the point data of this guy singing, and they will move the camera around. And at some point, they presented the music video, but they also gave the data for the people to play with. This actually was it was done by Google to indirectly promote Google Code, because they put the code in Google Code. But it was nice that they did also a nice piece of visual, or like a music video, as an excuse to the promotion. So they gave all the data, all the points, so that people can play with, and they also had a visualizer of the points for the website, which it was done with Flash, and I thought it was a little bit too slow. So I kind of, I was trying and loaded the points and everything, and just to try with a 3D engine, I was starting to play myself. It's actually 2.5D, but it was fun to mess with the data and everything. And again, I put it on my side. The interesting thing is that the guys that did the music video saw this, and of course, and all the rest of the experiments that the people were doing. And at some point, they contacted me because they were launching, it was Google, and they were launching Google Chrome, and they wanted to have like a website to show what you could do with JavaScript, or with a fast JavaScript engine. So they asked me if I was interested in doing just some experiments, like experiments I were having on my website, but just to have some experiments just for them for showing what you could do with Chrome, which actually was I was doing Flash all along, and I didn't really know what you could do with JavaScript, and I was a little bit, well, I guess you can do stuff, but I guess it's going to be slow. Well, actually, it turned out it was kind of fast, what you could do with that. This is just images moving and having in the background a physics engine, which is a Box2D, which is a common physics engine that you would use. And it was kind of fun to develop this and see that it was so fast, and actually spend a lot of time. Once I had the basic thing, like just one ball playing, it was a lot of time playing with the whole thing, so it feels fun to play, like the speed, and to be able to click on the background and throw more balls, just to actually make it fun, not just having many browsers usually have the problem that they will do a demo, but it just looks really bad. It's not attractive at all. And so it was a little bit what I was trying to do on my experiments thing. So it was this, and also this one, which it was using the same engine, and actually the other one was the first one, and this is something I was doing in Flash, but the guy was like, actually now that you have a 3D engine, physics engine, maybe you can what about applying to websites and what you could do with that? I actually was doing this experiment with Flash at that point. Well, I'm doing that, but I don't know you can do with that with JavaScript. And it turns out that you can rotate elements and everything with JavaScript. It was kind of fun. And as bonus, you were actually able to actually not on the internet, but you can search and the results will appear from the top. It was fun, and the whole thing of having the physics is like people will start to play with all these and start to do like columns and trying to put the Google logo on top, and doing things. It was really interesting. And by that point, actually, I wanted to put awesome, but I think I was going to say awesome. But at this point, I realized that this was really really great, because it was, as a designer or even doing music, sometimes you kind of use the computer as a tool, but like I use as a hammer. Let's say you can do what the hammer can do, but by the time you're doing coding, you can make that hammer like do many more things than not just putting on nails. So I was quite excited at this point, and it was interesting because of all these, all those experiments. It was reaching, let's say, mainstream comparing to all the demo scene. I did much more stuff on the demo scene, but no one was really appreciating it compared to this, because it was more playful for all those people. So then at this point, I was considering doing demos again. I was kind of trying to find an excuse, because I learned so much from the demos in the back on the past that I wanted to contribute again, but it just didn't. It didn't work. It kind of didn't make much sense. So I started to analyze it a little bit, how the experience was nowadays. And this is actually how it was before. But now you had to download the zip, find where you download it, compared to the internet, which is just clicking stuff. Find where you download it and zip it, execute it, and then if it works and you have the proper operating system and hardware, then you're gonna see the whole thing. But not everyone has the right OS or hardware, so in the end, everyone will say that you need to do a video version of the demo, which in the end kind of turns all the demos that we do are in the end videos for normal people, for people that don't really code in a way. So then I was comparing videos of, like, let's say, a demo with a video nowadays. So this is a video, and it's actually all it's 3D CGI, but it's just presented to the world as a video. It's quite long, but you kind of get the idea of the output quality of what the video people is getting nowadays. And then if we compare it to a demo, like it's actually one from 1 year before that one, before the video, but you kind of, I think it's a good example of what demos can do. Okay. One interesting thing is to notice that the video was done with only one guy. Like only one guy created the whole thing. Was running, was using 3D software, commercial 3D software, but it was only one guy. And this demo took 7 guys to do it. And for someone that doesn't appreciate the real-time thing, it feels wrong. Why seven guys do something that looks much more antiquated than other video nowadays. So people say, it runs in real time and everything as if it was a limitation. But I think after I was using all the demo editors and everything, it's more than a limitation. It's really a benefit that you can see exactly the output in real time without having to spend one night rendering the whole thing. So I think it's kind of logic that a demo should look much better than another video nowadays, because those guys don't really predict how it's going to look unless they spend a night doing a render of the whole thing. Then there is the experience of the browser demos, which comparing to a video is much similar, because you only had to click. Like in this case, this is a demo I did 2 weeks ago, I think. So it's actually everything in real time. It's not really a video, and you can use to get the effect. It's actually running in Chrome. So it was interesting to try, but the only interactivity that I was able to have is just that thing, which is it was only for me to be able to edit the whole thing. But I was trying to see if that will make sense in a way compared to competing with nowadays videos. Like if there was something that it had some extra value that what a video can give you nowadays. So you only had to click it, but in this case, you still had to fight with videos with the streaming in this case, because by the time you load the whole demo, like a video will start playing because it can stream only the beginning, and it's exactly the same fight in a way. Like a video will be exactly the same what a real-time demo can give you. So after all this, I was trying again to see if there was some logic in all this and why people will still do demos nowadays. Then there was this problem that, like the demo you showed before, it won many awards and everything, but even if it looks, by the time it was done, it looks kind of done 10 years before in CGI. So in a way, it's because all the demos usually work mainly for the demos in people. If it's for someone that have seen, it's outside, it will look a little bit too like a parallel world in a way. So after doing all the interactive stuff and everything, and seeing that it was kind of possible to please the mainstream people too with real-time stuff, I was trying to find a way that it will make sense to also please those guys. So this is when I came up with I guess it's a little bit of I don't know how to say, like a trend name, like the creative coding thing, but it's actually what it makes more sense. So the best name I think it is for this thing. The idea is just that if we create effects, so the idea is just to create effects that are easy to do with code, but not as easy to do with normal software. Like you just have to play a little bit with code, you will easily get something that it will take you a lot of time to do with normal software. And and myself, which I'm not really a proper coder, let's say, I found it really easy to, just messing with code to find new aesthetics that people will wonder why or how it was done. Which I think it's in a way what I really liked from the old demos, because by that time, by the 15 years ago, all those demos, there was no software that you could do what you were seeing on the demos before. But now you have a cube, a chamfer cube with a reflection. You can do that with a 3D Studio Max in one afternoon. So the fact that we have those tools to evaluate what you can do in real time. But 15 years ago, there was nothing. So it was like really showing what you could do with computers and not what we have nowadays. Which is this idea of using code for creating visuals that you cannot do with normal software is actually what the processing guys are doing, which is, I don't know, processing, which is it's a language based in Java that it really makes it really easy to do prototyping of effects. So as an example, there's this one. So I don't know if those guys, or I don't know if this one, I always wonder if this one actually runs in real time, but I don't think it really matters. It only matters to me and to demos in people, I guess. But what it's interesting is the whole look and the whole output of this thing, because he only used the code just for creating that. He didn't really worry that it will run in all the computers and everything. He was more interested in the actual output of the code. So after playing with this, or trying to analyze a little bit the creative coding process, to see where the people was doing, or the demos in people were, which points they were doing, I wanted to, or I was trying to do like a list of what I usually do for creating my effects. Like in the beginning, you don't really know what you're going to do. You have an idea of, okay, I'm going to do this with physics or with this other thing, but you don't really know. You're not trying to achieve anything at all. You are just coding something and then trying things and to see what you get out of it. So the first thing you have to do is just the base code of what you want to do. You want to have something with 3D, you have to do a 3D engine, or you can just use another 3D engine, but you have to do just the base, which I think, or I had the impression that many people that come from university or that kind of roots, they kind of got stuck in this point because they haven't teach to solve a problem, let's say. You have this problem and you have to code something to fix that problem. So he has, okay, I want to do a 3D engine. I'll do the code for doing a 3D engine and that's it. They don't do anything else. You have a cube rotating and that's it, their demo. But after having this, you just start to experiment with the code, like even if just modifying lines to see what happens without really thinking what you are really doing. You can find really interesting things like that. And you experiment a bit more and a bit more. I just want to show that its base code is really small compared to what you actually get the interesting results. And then after playing with the code a little bit, you start to get some interesting things. Like when I kind of discovered this thing, it was doing one holding page from my first website, which it was just this. So at this point, I had a very basic 3D engine, and I had an icososphere, which is just a sphere with triangles, and actually I'm not sure it was an icosa. But then I was just trying to for some reason, I thought it was going to be interesting if I was able to have the vertices from the sphere to have some curves in between. I actually wanted to make it as a sphere, not like a spikes, but it was just a mistake because I was trying to do like a curve and trying to find the middle point of the curve to put it there, but for some reason I did the math wrong, so I just put everything on the middle. So all the points are actually the control points of all the lines are in the middle, so this looks like spikes. We're like, wow, this is cool. I didn't really want to do that, and it will take me a lot of time if I actually wanted to do that. It was interesting. I kept that one. Then as another example, which is not as maybe surprising, at least for me, there was this competition of 1K this week for JavaScript. Like you had to do something in JavaScript in just 1 kilobyte, which is interesting that we are doing now this. I first started to do. I wanted to see if I could have a 3D engine in just 1 kilobyte, and by the first thing I just had this, which it was just random points and then just drawing squares on the position of the points and rotating the whole thing. It was kind of the first. That was kind of the base code. But after playing with this and see, okay, I have this point, maybe I can apply this sinus to here and this sinus to there. I came up with this thing, which it wasn't at all what I was trying to do. I didn't really expect much, but it ended up being quite interesting. This is like the plasma that we saw before, but in this case it's in 3D. It's like the same that we have a sinus in the X and the Y, we had to have it on the set. So it was interesting, and actually didn't take much time to do this, and it was just messing a little bit. And I find it kind of mesmerizing just to see what the whole thing does. So once you have something that you discover, you can develop it a little bit to actually find more other things. But usually I kind of get on the 5, let's say. But for some specific thing like the bouncing balls before, you really had to spend time to get a feeling that it's right or interesting, or, really special in a way out of the code that you're having to make it. To make you forget that this code is actually more like something you want to try or something you want to see in this case. And once you're done with that, you just start again, and it's just a loop. Once you have many of those, you can start to see how you can combine them. So it was starting to make sense at this point, like to what I should do if I had to do a demo again, or what I'd really like from demos. And I was looking for if there was demos that were doing this kind of stuff, and most of the demos usually are really for the demos in people, and they don't really care much about all the they will shout to other people, but it won't work too much. So as a kind of a conclusion thing, instead of using the real time as a limitation, I think we really should, or at least I will really try to make it out the best of the actual fact that it's real time. And if you need to build tools to synchronize, it's going to be much better. And just spend a lot of time like just playing with code for getting new aesthetics. And what is more interesting, or what I think we should do, is like actually create stuff that makes the people think that, or makes the people wonder how it was done, so he gets interested instead of saying, oh, you could do that with this software or this other one. And in this case, in this example, when you have the guys wondering why or how it was done, you can actually say that it's done in 32Ks. They're not going to care too much, but they maybe wonder how it was done. So I think you can see that they really spent a lot of time doing the transitions and finding something that was different, but it was really hard to achieve in any other way. And I think they have some tools, and I think they use VVV for doing all the testing and wiring effects with being able to control all the whole thing. But it was interesting to see that there were some examples that it worked for the demo scene in a way, because although the demo scene they liked it, but it wasn't, they kind of prefer like the other one, which is with fast music and pounding music and a little bit more loud in a way. But I think this was a really nice example that works for everyone. And that's it. I don't know if you have any questions, but that's what I had to say. No? Okay. Thank you for listening.